So I'm going to pose this question to you, and it's a pretty heavy question.
So this cease and desist, that's what I feel about that.
Let's keep fighting the good fight and bringing more people on our side.
In today's America, the classroom has become more than just a place to learn. It has become a space where culture, belief, and policy collide. At the center of that conversation is California teacher Jessica Tapia, a longtime educator who found herself at the heart of a growing controversy after refusing to follow district policies involving gender identity in schools. Policies that required the use of preferred pronouns and, in some cases, limited what could be shared with parents. Tapia said those directives conflicted with her religious beliefs and her right to speak freely. The district disagreed, and what followed was a legal battle that quickly gained national attention. A lawsuit, a settlement, and a debate that continues to divide communities across the country. Where is the line between protecting students and protecting personal freedom? Between policy and belief? Between the role of a teacher and the rights of a parent? Tapia's story has become part of a much larger conversation, one that extends far beyond a single classroom. To some, she represents a stand for personal conviction. To others, a challenge to policies designed to protect students. But one thing is certain, this conversation isn't going away. This is Around Town with Matt Ward and Sonja Shaw.
So we're going to kick this off here. So before we get started, just a couple things here. First of all, congratulations to Jessica. Got a new baby, Nathaniel Charles, March 29th. So 3 weeks old. I've been following your Instagram. So I see you got a new baby. So congratulations. Exciting. And then also we're going to talk about your career as a teacher. And I know you're from Jurupa Valley School District. And we previously did a podcast with Madison, Alyssa, and Hadil. So did you know those three girls?
You know what? While I was teaching there, Madison was a volleyball player and a track runner there. We didn't like personally know each other, but I just remember seeing her on campus. So really full circle moment to then be fired and then begin working for the law firm that was on my case and then take on those girls' case and have, actually. So Hadil was a student of mine during COVID, but that was like hard to remember because it was like over the computer, cameras were off. I didn't really see who my students were. But yeah, that hit very close to home and was very full circle.
Right. That's what I was thinking, because you work for the law firm now that's representing those three
Right.
females, right? Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Talk about full circle.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into it, but they ended up in my inbox, Jessica's inbox, and then we have like this thing with Sophia, Lori, and myself, Jessica, and Sophia kind of help these girls and their parents when they reach out. So really full circle going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so to preface the conversation here, we're going to be talking with Jessica Tapia. So Jessica was previously employed with Jurupa Valley School District, which is the same school district that the three female athletes were from. And you were fired for refusing to follow directives. And I'll read some of what you have on the website here in a second. And so I am going
fired for refusing to lie to parents.
Yes. So I'm going to read directly what's on the website. I think it's the website Faith and Freedom, Advocates for Faith and Freedom. So I'll just read two paragraphs right here. So following these unfounded allegations, the district gave Ms. Tapia a set of directives for her to follow in order to maintain employment with the district. These directives are not state or federal law. Among the directives, the district required Ms. Tapia to lie to parents about their children's gender identity, refer to students by their preferred pronouns, and refrain from expressing her religious beliefs with students or on her social media, and allow students to use the bathroom or locker room that match their preferred sex. When Miss Tapia informed the district that due to her faith, she could not comply with the directives, the district, instead of accommodating her religious beliefs, the district retaliated against her and terminated her tenured teaching position. And then there's a lot more after that, which I'm not going to read because I want that story to unfold. I don't want to give the ending away. And so we'll go with that to preface the conversation. So that's kind of a little bit of the story here with Jessica Tapia. That's what we're going to talk about. And then Sonja Shaw needs no introduction. So President Chino Valley Unified School District and running to be the next superintendent of public instruction right now, and very active in the space of parental rights, parental transparency, freedom from coerced speech, which is one of the reasons why we're having this conversation, because all of those things come into play here in terms of this story for Jessica Tapia. So as far as the purpose of this conversation, so to me, I see it, knowledge is power, and then to learn from other people's experiences. So you've had quite the experience here as far as what you've gone through as a teacher and losing your job. And so I want your story to be told. I want other people to learn from it, because I know I've heard from multiple teachers, very similar situation where they're told, oh, you're going to do this, that, or whatever, or you're going to lose your job. And so I think your story speak to a lot of people and be very powerful. And so I think your story is going to empower, encourage, equip other people that find themselves in this situation. And so that's why I see us having this conversation. That's why we're talking. And so I gave the little preface there. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Sonja and let Sonja ask the questions here to kind of unfold your story and tell us how we got to this point here.
Well, first of all, I want to start off by just thanking God for bringing us all together. Matthew, he didn't give himself an introduction, but he was just a parent going along, being a dad and a husband to an amazing wife. And he got involved in politics because of the same reason. We realized we had a moral obligation, and he's now on the school board in Galt. So I do want to make sure that he's recognized for fighting the good fight, linked arms. And then here you go, bringing full circle, bringing, all three of us together. I just want to thank God for doing that, because it is amazing to bring these conversations and bring light to such darkness right now. Jessica, it's hard to even have this conversation in public, because not because we can't talk, but because how much I love you and respect you, and how, many years ago when we were finding out what was going on with these secrets being kept from parents, watching you be the first teacher that was in the spotlight to say, no, I'm not going to hide secrets from parents. It's such an honor to have you here. I know that you have taken on the slings and arrows, but man, God has blessed you tremendously with such a beautiful family. And I do want to say this because I do know this is a spiritual warfare. And I just want to say you're covered by the blood, and so is your family. So whatever slings and arrows come, whoever's watching this that has nefarious reasons, we rebuke that in the name of Jesus. So there we go. We're good. Set off to have this conversation, because you have a family, and more than anything, I just ask God continues to protect your family as you speak truth. So
thank you.
With that said, do you want to give us a little bit of a background? I know you're used to being interviewed, and I just want people to know who you are, your heart, and why you got involved, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes I'm afraid I don't go far enough back. And so I'm going to go all the way back, but I'll keep it short, because a lot of people don't realize what I came from. And me and Sonja relate a lot on this. I think just our upbringing, our childhood, was not easy. It was rough, but it's so cool to see, like, that's exactly who God wants to use, loves to use. So I grew up, my mom was a drug addict. I had no idea who my dad was because my mom just slept around. It got so bad to the point what I was going through as a young girl, I had to go to my grandma one day and beg her to take me away from my mom. So I was 7 years old and made that decision on my own, had to be mature enough at that age to just say, get me away from this evil, basically. And so my grandma fought for guardianship of me and my sister for 2 years, and she got it. Praise the Lord. She is still here with us, but I still call her my angel, and I will struggle when she goes to heaven, but at the same time, I will have the peace that surpasses all understanding, knowing where she is. But anyways, so my grandma raised me from when I was 7 years old, and praise the Lord for that, and continued to watch my mom be, addicted to drugs and sleep around, ended up having another child. I was very bitter over that, because I was like, you couldn't even raise us two girls, and now you're pregnant again with, another tweaker drug addict. And but that is actually, I was 18 when that happened. That's actually what God used to kind of break down my walls, because now a baby was going to be in the picture, and there's no way I was going to be so bitter that I wasn't going to have a relationship with my baby brother. And so the Lord used him. His name is Aiden. He's now 16. So I have a 16-year-old brother in high school, Riverside Unified. And so God really used that to help me forgive my mom and, just have grace. And now me and my mom are best of friends, and she's been clean ever since having Aiden, her
That's
third
amazing.
child. So hallelujah. And at 18, I was dating my now husband. We've been dating since 16 and 17, high school sweethearts. We went on this hunt to find my dad. So that was this whole adventure. I ended up doing 3 DNA tests with different men who were possibly my dad, and the third one was it. So that was a whole interesting thing to be 18 years old, finally find my dad and start a relationship with him. And that's like a whole other podcast to get into the details of that. But, life has been crazy. I always thought all of that I've shared with you would be like my testimony. And then, you know, life kind of calmed down, got married. I went to college. I went to California Baptist University for almost 7 years, got my bachelor's in kinesiology, my single subject teaching credential, and my master's in education. I just always had such a love for sports and fitness and coaching. So I was like, PE teacher it is. I know teaching's a great job to also be a mom, so we'll do that. And did that, went right back to the district where I was a student, Harupa Unified School District, and was basically in my 6th year, at the end of my 6th year of teaching, when it was like, I don't even have words for the moment that it seemed like time paused, and I was going through something I could have never fathomed or imagined. And basically, I was sitting in class like 2 days before summer was about to come, and I was escorted out of class by one of the principals, walked up to the office, and I remember even asking her, like, where are we going? What is this about? And she wouldn't answer. And so at that point, I had a pretty good idea. Okay, this must be what I've been seeing on social media. And I had been seeing students find me on social media, and they clearly were not liking my very outspoken Christian conservative beliefs, because they were commenting and messaging me some pretty awful things. And I was just ignoring them because I had no desire to engage with students via social media. Um, but that is exactly what the issue was. I got walked up to the office and sat down in front of the um, absolute higher ups of the district, assistant superintendent, I believe, and was told, it's been brought to our attention, some things on your social media that students are very upset about. We need to investigate this. You're immediately being placed on paid administrative leave, and you need to leave right now for your safety. And those words have forever marked me, because to have a I forget if he was the assistant or the superintendent of the district at the time, but to have someone in that status tell me that I'm now unsafe because of what students have found on my social media, that was crazy. And that definitely changed our life in terms of like being ready to protect ourselves. I'll just say that. But yeah, I had to just go to my office in the girls' locker room, and I already knew in my gut in that moment too, like, this is not good. Like, and it's not gonna end, we'll say, well, with quotes. But I just like knew in that moment, grab everything you can. Like, and I grabbed as much as I could. And then it all kind of began from there. And I had a series of several meetings with the district to pan it all out before they eventually decided to fire me in writing, their own words, because they could not accommodate my religious beliefs, which, of course, one of my first thoughts was, what country am I in? What do you mean?
Yeah.
America was founded on the freedom of religion, and all of a sudden, this is an issue. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'll go beyond even what they wanted to call religious beliefs because we have a lot of people that you and I, and even Matthew have come in contact that don't have the same religious beliefs. But to go back and listen to your story, I mean, I think it's really important to point out what your quote unquote religious beliefs were and why you were getting fired. Because for many that may not know you, it's not something crazy. It's not something out of the norm. So if you could just summarize what that is and why they decided to fire you, I think it's going to be eye opening for a lot more parents listening on the attack on parents' constitutional and God given rights. But more importantly, I still think parents are not aware. As a majority of parents, we have a bunch of parents coming to this fight, but there's still a majority of parents that are not aware of what's being pushed into the curriculum, into the schools, and into the laws. So, would you just kind of briefly summarize what it is that they were, in essence, firing you or putting you on leave and then firing you for?
Yeah, so I always say we can totally set religious beliefs aside in my story and it still be just as weighty as it
Yeah,
is. It's truly it's common sense, it's truth, and it's all founded on male and female and parental rights and then also freedom of speech. So um basically the district gave me this ultimatum. We don't like what you've posted on your social media, which again, I was posting my Christian conservative beliefs, which made it very clear that I believe, God created male and female, and gender is not something we get to choose. We are what he made us to be. And
there we
quite
go.
frankly, it's quite evil to think or make a child believe or go along with their belief that they're something they're not.
Yep.
And so anyways, that basically that was what I was clearly sharing on my social media, that I'm not pro pushing LGBTQ on kids. I had made a video showing a onesie in Kohl's that was a Pride onesie during Pride Month, and I was like, what in the world is this? Like, this is
Yeah.
not okay. And so that was one of the things that students saw that video of mine that, again, very clearly showed my stance in this LGBTQ push on children, and students decided that I was discriminatory and disrespectful for holding those views. And
Yeah.
they actually airdropped that video across campus to try and like get as many students on board of believing that I'm,
Some
X, Y.
hateful person.
Yeah, and so anyways, the ultimatum, the district was not happy that I had posted those things, was not happy that now students felt this certain way about me. But basically they were like, we'll allow you to come back to work if you do this. And it was 7 directives. And the first one was that if I were to come back and refer to students by their preferred name and pronouns, and so I was immediately like,
Yeah.
gut check,
Compelled
like
speech.
you guys give me my roll call, my roll sheet, whatever it's called. I'm so rusty. Haven't taught in forever. But like you guys give me that and you're literally telling me to not follow like the names and the sex listed on the sheet you give me. They literally like, yeah, like if a student comes to you and now they want this name and this sex, like you need to make note of it and go off of what they're requesting. And I'm like, what in the world? And so then I did I pause and ask them? Oh, this wasn't in writing, but then they say, oh, also, you need to withhold that from their parents. So
Yeah.
then at that point, I speak up because for most of the meeting, I was just kind of like sitting back and taking all of it. Like,
In shock.
what is,
Yeah.
yeah, just in shock, taking it all in, like, God, what is happening? And then when they said, you'll need to withhold that information from parents, I looked them dead in the eye and I said, are you asking me to lie to parents? And they said, yes, for student safety and privacy. So that one really, really got me to see like this wall, this divide that the administration was wanting to put up between, children and their parents and teachers and the parents. And And we're supposed to, I remember learning we're supposed to be a triangle with the student at top, and
Yeah.
the parents and teachers are always working together, open communication to do what's best, for the child. And I remember learning that like in my, credential program. But anyways, so list goes on. They said also you will have to, no longer post on your social media about like the Bible and like your Christian beliefs because those have obviously like offended students. And I'm like, so what? Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? No, I
Yeah.
could post anything and someone will be offended. Literally, I could
Yeah.
post anything and someone will be offended. And list goes on, and I'm just like, it's like everything they read to me. I'm like, if I were to accept these directives and go along with this, like, who would I even be? Like, I would just
Yeah.
be laying down who I am and be some r robot teacher just there babysitting and getting paid. Like, this is ridiculous. And at
Yeah.
so that meeting actually, that one ended, and um, they were going to decide, um, further action. And it was in the final meeting where okay, after receiving those directives, I emailed them. I went on stress leave to determine, do I take these directives and show up to work or do I say something? 3 months of like literally prayer and fasting and seeking counsel, God led me to the point of saying, no, you need to speak up, you need to push back, you need to refuse. And so I did that, and I spoke personally out of my religious beliefs as to why I couldn't lie to parents, because it's God who ordains parents to be the protector of their children, and I'm not going to step in the way of that because my boss is telling me I need to.
Yeah.
And why I couldn't refer to students by just whatever they think they are, again, because God created them as either male or female, and I'm not gonna lie to a child. And so basically, I lay all that out to the district, again, speaking from my Christian beliefs. And they said, it sounds like you're asking for a religious accommodation to the things we've asked you to do. So come on, we'll see if and how we can accommodate your religious beliefs. And I'm just thinking already, right, going into the meeting,
Yeah.
like, well, you're not going to, because I'm not the only Christian teacher in the world on the campus in the district. Like, and if you were to accommodate me, when I'm telling you I will not lie to parents and I will not lie to children, then that means, am I going to be the only one accommodated, the only one walking around campus who doesn't have to play the pronoun game, who doesn't have to withhold information from
Yeah.
parents? So, like, I kind of already knew I'm not going to be accommodated because how would that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Laws would
No.
have to be changed for everyone, which was going to be like hallelujah if that's what came of my story. Amazing. But anyway, so I go into this meeting, and it was more so like this whole interrogation where they were like, where do you go to church and what do you read and how often? And what is it in
It's
your
so
Bible that
crazy.
says, what is it in your Bible that says you can't
Wow.
respect a child's preferred pronouns? And like, aren't your beliefs against violence? Like, by you not respecting a child's preferred pronouns, like you're basically inciting violence, like for them to
This
harm.
is
And I'm just like,
crazy.
what in the world? The gaslighting was unreal, something I'd never experienced in my life before. And
Yeah.
so it was a lot for me. I had just turned 30, and it was just a lot. It was the most intense spiritual warfare I'd ever been in. But I kept being reminded by the Holy Spirit that that's what it
Mhm.
was. And I needed to stand firm, and I needed to just keep my eyes on him. And so at the end of that religious accommodation meeting, final meeting, they said, is there anything else we need to know that you won't do in your position as a teacher because of your beliefs? And I said, yeah, while we're at it. I'm in a unique position. I'm a PE teacher, so I oversee a girls' locker room. So I'll just let you know now, I'm also not going to let boys enter my girls'
Yeah.
locker room. And they said, we have a whole other issue then. You have to. If
Whoa.
a student is identifying as a girl, you'd have to let them in. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, all
You're
right.
done. Yeah.
The
You're
the
like, "Ah, I'm
like
done."
Lord,
Yeah.
the ball is like fully in their court now. I am laying it all out there. They're gonna know exactly what I will and won't do. And if I'm fired, I'm fired. And I always say, like, I didn't know it at that time, but I took on the Esther attitude, Queen Esther, when she said, I'll go before the king, even though it's against the law. And if I perish, if I'm killed for, doing what was against the law. but it was the right thing. And the thing is, with my story, I was going against law here in California,
Yep.
as you knows. I was refusing to follow a law, but I took on this attitude of I'm gonna refuse, even though it's the law, because I know what's right. And if I'm fired, I'm fired. And
Yeah. Well,
what happened?
yeah, and in California, laws are meant, well, how about this? Laws are meant to keep people safe, but in California, unfortunately, a lot of laws are made that actually put people in unsafe positions. And
Exactly.
again, a lot of parents do not know that it is law to allow boys and girls into each other's locker room, depending on someone's personal feelings. This has nothing to do with biological sex. And a lot of parents don't know that until maybe they've had that dinner table conversation with their child,
Yeah.
and their young daughter is saying, hey, dad or mom, there was a boy in my locker room, or on the track field, or whatever it may be. They see a boy competing against the girls under the girls category.
Hmm.
But I do want to say, you taking that stance, it definitely, it was a pivoting moment here in California that gave people courage. First of all, I know that people are still scared, but you've also seen two other teachers take on, and that case ended up on the Supreme Court. We have Elizabeth Mirabelli and Lori West, who also said in San Diego County, no, we're not going to lie to parents. And I remember Elizabeth telling me she was given sheets of kids who were identifying as the opposite sex, and she said, does their parents know? And the answer was no.
Hmm.
It's mind blowing that people still don't understand this. But as you and I and others, including Matthew, have gotten more involved and seen the legislators involved and putting what they put in curriculum, it's absolutely mortifying and horrifying what they're legislating to put into this curriculum, creating this confusion for our children, and also creating this mindset of these children, brainwashing them to think that their parents are bad.
Yeah.
And then they weaponize things like CPS and things that are supposed to be keeping kids safe to take away, children from their parents just because they refuse to go along with this dysphoria that's happening. And that results into kids having healthy body parts cut off. I mean, I was just asked to give a statement recently because in legislation right now,
Mhm.
Equality California, which we all know who they are, they've been relentless at fighting, even our district with the parent notification that had to do with exactly what you're dealing with, saying parents have a right to know, and we're going to make a phone call if a kid says, I want to identify as the opposite sex. They're asking for $26 million of
All that.
taxpayer dollars to
Unreal.
put towards this, what they call gender affirming care.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Matthew and I have done a podcast, even with, a detransitioner,
Yeah.
talking about how first she was experiencing it in school and they were socially transitioning her and not telling her parents. And then eventually it came to blackmailing her parents. And Matthew, put it very clearly with the question. It was pretty much, do you want a dead daughter or an alive son type thing?
Hmm.
And that is completely heartbreaking that they're weaponizing the system and then cutting off healthy body parts on children. And we're all literally contributing our money to it, with
Yeah.
some of us not even knowing it. So I'm going to tell you, when I got involved in this and I saw what was going on with just the school closures, obviously, God had a bigger plan to expose a lot more. I was grateful when I found you having a voice and saying, no, I'm not going to lie to parents, because I couldn't even believe as a parent, like, what are we dealing with? How did we come to a point in history where we're telling children their parents are bad? Like,
Hmm.
again, you and I grew up in childhoods where our parents may have not been the best for us in that position.
Hmm.
But then again, you have so many beautiful, amazing parents wanting to do the right thing, and look at how the system's being weaponized against them. So again, I just want to commend you for doing that. With that, it's come full circle, especially in the sports, and then your district having one of the athletes. And I just don't want to bring in any names because I always focus, and you do too, and I love it, and so does Ward. This is a bigger issue than just one athlete, one boy, one, even girl going into the boys' restroom. This is bigger than that because there's always going to be another, because of how they're brainwashing and poisoning the minds of these children to tell them that, you could be whatever you want depending on how you feel. And you can take away other people's rights, and that's okay. And then eventually it leads to those making a stance, facing death threats and facing, look at the three beautiful, amazing, athletes that were on this boys well, he was on their girls team. They had to
Right.
graduate early because
Yeah.
they were being harassed
Yep.
so badly. So with that, can you maybe just tell us a little bit? Obviously, it's hard for me to even ask questions because it's our life, and we pretty much do life together in this circle, in this fight. But with CIF and it branching out to our daughters having their rights and opportunities taken away with Title IX, maybe give us a little outlook on what we've been experiencing here and tell the viewers how that fight has branched out and how big of a fight it is. But also, we have tools available for these girls, right? Because you went from being a teacher, having your master's, that was your thing and your calling at that time, to being a homeschool mama bear, still fighting the good fight, working for the attorney firm, the firm that helped protect your rights, and now giving the tools to other people who, have the courage to stand up. So I would love to just, have you kind of talk about that and tell the
Yeah.
viewers about that situation.
Yeah, I feel like it's nearly every day I get another message on social media from either a parent or a teacher who, is facing something along the lines of what we've been talking about, and they're seeking help. They're seeking prayer or wisdom or guidance or legal help. And so it's really cool that, people think of me and know they can come to me for some direction in such a tough spot. And I know how tough that spot is because I was there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy because, and God kind of reminded me the other day when I was still to this day, 3 years after being fired, I experience, you know, defamation to my name and slander and hate, people going to local school board meetings and, trying to paint me in a certain way to keep me from. I was invited to come speak at a TPUSA chapter meeting at a local high school. The students invited me. They wanted to hear my testimony of being fired as a teacher. How cool is that? I was so excited. I did not think for a second that the left would step in and do everything possible to keep me from stepping foot on that campus. And they did. And the head of security for Temecula Valley had to call off the event because of the outrage about me coming to speak to a small group of students who invited me to be there. And
Mm,
that's like that's just something that happened in just the last month. And even that is still playing out because just a few days ago at their last school board meeting, two people showed up and just spoke absolute lies, about me and the stand that I took.
yeah.
And so, God had to, every time something comes up and I'm like, what, like, how is this, like, am I not old news? Like, why are these things still happening? I'm totally unbothered, but it just boggles my mind that people are still like talking about me. But, he had to remind me, like, you were the first teacher in the state, possibly even the nation. I mean, I think there were one or two in another state, like way, back in 21, 22, that had a similar story and lawsuit. It just it didn't go like viral. Like
Yeah.
mine, the virality on my story was uh, crazy. I mean, I was on the news with Tucker Carlson, like in that, I mean, he gets, when he was on the news, he would get 3 to 5 million viewers on his show. And I remember like my old pastor telling me like this is a big deal. Like the nation is about to hear your story and the stand you
Mhm.
took. And so it was just really cool to see like God honors those who honor him, and him use my stand in truth to really shake the nation and make some serious waves in this issue. But I think I have to just get over the fact of like my story's old, like can we move on? When it doesn't matter if you did it 20 years ago or 2 days ago, when you take a bold public stand in truth for what is, good, right, and true, like you will forever be hated because
Yeah,
they hated him first. And
exactly.
so it's okay. It's just part of life now. And me and Sonia both know, like, even the hate and the defamation and the slander and the threats, like, even the absolute low, dark valleys, God has a way of using those to just
Yep.
continue to expose, right? To
Yep.
continue to bring more fighters into the battle. So,
Oh, yeah. I mean, you and I have cried, laughed, prayed, celebrated the,
Aw.
the wins here that we've had in California working all together. It's definitely been a journey, but you
Yes.
said something about your story being old news. And I have to say, I disagree with that because it's still relevant to the fight that we're in today. I mean, you took a stance, and then you had, people also take stances in their own very unique positions that they were in, parents, which brought, people like Matthew and I and other board members that got elected that year. And then we had an assemblyman, Bill Laselli, who was new, Riverside County. Just for clarification, you're from Riverside County. I'm from San Bernardino County. I always say we're brothers and sisters. We're right next to each other. And we have, even Political did an article, which I find really interesting, on how it would have been those of us, in Riverside and San Bernardino that would have changed the elected, and they were even talking about the position that California was in. It was kind of an interesting thing that somebody at a national level was looking down at these two counties as being the pivoting, counties that were turning things around. And that's to say that eventually it led out. We were all reaching out and linking arms across California, and that brought us Ward and other people and other great board members. I can name them all, and teachers and moms and parent groups, to bring us to a time such as this. But it's gotten to the point where we've had to have Supreme Court rule that parents have a right. We've had notification policies. You remember Bill Laselli, I was just mentioning, he brought a bill. I always say Bill brought the bill that rocked the nation. It simply said parents would be notified if a kid were to identify as the opposite sex. I have deprogrammed myself as much as I can, and those that I love, to stop using the word gender. I know it's embedded in everything, but I really do truly believe gender is like their ideology term, to where it's gender. It's male and female. We should not blur the lines. I mean, Title IX, that, Biden admin back then was trying to make the word go from sex to gender, because he knows that that includes a lot of different things, including kids identifying as animals. Yes, that's a very real thing. And there's litter boxes in California schools. I wish that was a joke and we were joking about that and it wasn't true, but this is our reality we're facing in California by adults poisoning the minds of children. But his bill didn't get a hearing because the majority of legislators have this wicked agenda to, I believe, and what I've seen is to destroy these children's minds so they grow up, they can continue to control them. You see them on their own universities, in which they will probably be forever in debt to, burning them down, ruining them, and saying death to America. That's the result that we're getting right now, because it's this agenda is a national agenda. I would even tell people, I mean, Jessica, you've been to other states. I've been to other states. We've seen the reddest of red states in these nonpartisan seats with school boards be hijacked by teachers unions, which I believe is the root of all these evils. And unfortunately, it's the teacher union leadership that, is pushing an agenda that I believe in my heart, the majority of teachers do not want to support, and they do not support. So I want to be very clear. We have great teachers, but we have a union that's hell-bent at creating this division. But with that, there was school boards like ours that passed a notification policy that ended up, with the state superintendent Newsom and all of them coming after us. Rob Bonta, our attorney general, who's supposed to be holding criminals accountable, ended up suing us, a school district in Little Old Chino. And little did I know you would be in that board meeting where it did go nationwide too. So it's kind of cool to see all of us come together. But what is sad is your story continues to, which is good. Your story continues to be relevant in the current, agenda that's being pushed. But what's sad is it's still current, right? We want it to end. Yeah. This should be a non-discussion. This should be a item. Parents have a right. These are their children. Children are not property of the state. With all that to say, this is a hill we all chose to pretty much die on. I mean, and none of us are reckless. We're not all asking to be killed. But the sad part is we all get death threats. I mean, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, someone said they were polishing their AR to come meet me at a meet and greet. I mean, this is the reality that we face. For what? To not want boys and girls sports, to focus education on reading, writing, and math and pathways to success, and to make sure parents have a seat at the table and they have the authority over their children and not the state.
Yeah.
Nothing you did, Jessica, was radical in the sense of, 80% of the people agree with us that this is the direction. And I would argue the 20% that don't need to seek mental health help. Matthew, you got into it for this very reason. So
Yeah.
Matthew, I would like
All
to
right.
now, hear your voice and
Okay.
give you an opportunity to ask Jessica some questions because I know, we can go on and on about the great things that we're all fighting for, but it's really sad. And don't ever say you're old news. Your story brought us to a time such as this, and it's bringing awareness. We always ask God to reveal, fully expose, and then remove wickedness. And He's doing exactly that. And your story is still very relevant, and we'll forever be grateful for your courage. So, Matthew, I
All
know you
right.
have some fun
Yes, I
questions
do.
planned.
I do. Oh, you got it. Okay, so first of all, hearing your story, first of all, thank you for standing up for freedom of speech and standing up for parental rights, and I would even say common sense. And I think you said this earlier, is that you don't even have to be a religious person to agree with all the things you just said there about boys shouldn't be in the girls' bathrooms, and you can't allow for that. You're not going to call a boy by girl pronouns or a girl by boy pronouns, and you're not going to keep secrets from parents. To me, those shouldn't even be like, hey, these are religious things. Like, to me, that's just like common courtesy. Even if I was outside of school and this was happening, I don't know, the supermarket or whatever, like, no, like, you don't keep secrets from parents, and I would not allow boys into the girls' bathroom, and should not have to seek a religious exemption for that. That just to
Exactly.
me seems common
Exactly.
sense. So like I think it's crazy that we've gotten to the point in society where we have to request a religious exemption for
Yeah.
something that would seem so commonplace. So
Right.
that's kind of crazy to me. And so thank you for standing up for that. And so I have a question for you. So like for me, I'm on the school board, and many times I've heard teacher or maybe some other person in the administration or whatever, I'm not going to say positions or whatnot, but they'll say things like, oh man, Matt, I agree with what you said. I love that. But you know what? I'm a teacher, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. So I can't say anything. My tongue's tied or whatever. What are your thoughts? So I'm sure you've probably heard that before. You've heard probably teachers say, well, I would say what you did and I agree with you, but I'm a teacher. I'm a this. What are your thoughts when you hear that?
Yeah, it's right along the lines of I'm just doing my job. It's a cop out. It's a total cop out. You have apparently idolized your job and your position and your whole identity, I guess, as being a teacher and, making $90,000 a year. And that's unfortunate that that is your number one priority above morality, above truth, above protecting children, above standing for our freedoms, our constitutional rights that men and women have died for us to have, and we're not even using them. Like I had this discussion with my 8-year-old yesterday because actually she asked me, what do you, I heard you say that the hill I'll die on. What do you mean? She's 8. She thought I was literally going to go find a hill and die on it. And so me and my husband had this whole discussion with her of what that means. And I brought up my story because my kids know my story to a T. They hear me sharing it with strangers in the grocery store all the time. So I said, look, let's look at when mommy got fired. When I got fired, I decided that was the hill I was going to die on. It didn't literally mean I was going to go stand on a hill and I was going to be killed on that hill. It meant that I was going to stand firm, so firm for what I believe in that I was willing to take whatever cost came with that. And the cost that came with that was losing my teaching job and losing my salary that I thought we wouldn't be able to live without. I thought we were going to lose our house, but we didn't, because God. Um, and so I don't know how I got off on that tangent. What your original question was.
What
Oh,
would
oh,
you tell the
yeah,
teachers?
yeah, yeah. So that cop out response, like I just have no sympathy for that. I really don't. Like people who say, "But I'm a teacher, but I'm a nurse," and in other words, they're saying, "I can't I can't have a voice. I can't be a voice. I can't say anything because I'll lose my job. I'll lose my salary." And so again, it's just to me revealing of what they idolize and what's most important in their life. And look, one of my favorite verses is if you try to save your life, you're going to lose it. But if you're willing to lose your life for my sake, then you will find it. I found my life after I was fired. I was just part of the rat race, part of the system, just like everyone else, doing my job until God said, I see you, and I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to have a story that's going to rock the nation, and it's also going to give you the desires of your heart. And you might not see it right away, but just hang tight. And the fact of the matter was, I wanted to be a teacher. I loved doing that. But then when I became a mom and started having children, that was so hard for me to leave my babies every morning to go teach. And then also to be seeing behind the curtain of the public school system and be thinking every day, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to be sending my kids into when they need to start
Mhm.
school. So I was so torn again once I became a mom because I started teaching at 21. I wasn't a mom yet. And so once
Yeah.
I became a mom, everything changed. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do when my kids have to go to school? And so that's also such a crazy part of my story. Once my oldest became kindergarten age, that's when this whole thing went down. And so it was like, I didn't even have to make a decision of putting her into the system because God took me out of it.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's hard to say that's what I wanted because it's like I didn't. I wasn't ever going to quit my teaching job, and he knew that. So he was like, "Well, then I'm going to get you out of it. One, so that I can use you as an example to the nation, and number two, so that I can put you home with your children so you can teach and protect them. And because I know that's the desire of your heart as a mother to be their teacher and their protector." So again, just amazing how he worked it all together for my good, what was meant for evil against me, as he has done for Sonia and is going to continue to do. And so, yeah, I really challenge everyone, teachers and anyone else, really. I've gotten messages from firefighters who are like, we
Hmm.
have to let a woman who thinks she's a male in like in our locker room and she's like there changing with us and like
So crazy.
like a fire chief messaging
Yeah.
me telling me the situation like I'm like you're a fire chief like I should be like messaging you like and it's just so crazy and I think we're at this point in time where we're all being brought to the place where we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
We have
No,
to
I agree.
choose to stand and speak or sit and be silent and look like the rest of the world and contribute to, the degeneracy. So I would just challenge everyone to don't use that as a cop out. I know how scary it is to risk your career and risk your salary. Like I said, I thought we were going to lose our house, have to live in a trailer, maybe move out of state. Like I didn't know, but we don't always need to
Yeah.
know. We need to trust. And for me, that is where, my faith comes in. I 100% could not have done what I did without the Lord. So I don't know exactly what advice to give to someone who doesn't have Him as their rock because I couldn't have done it if that was the case. But yeah, I would really challenge people to look at what they're prioritizing and idolizing. Then, if they're willing to flush their morals down the toilet to save their salary, I mean that means you love money more than a lot of other things that are much more important.
But I
All
think
right.
what's good too, really quick, Matthew, is
Yeah, no
you're
problem.
also showing parents homeschool is definitely the way to go right now. I mean, I get it all the time. How are you running for state superintendent and you're a school board member and you're telling people to exit the system because we know the dangers? We see
Yeah,
it. And we are trying to save those kids trapped in the system. And we're
yeah,
trying to save those children that, their parents are still not aware. And we're trying to bring awareness to what is happening so we can fight this agenda that has, hurt the system. But again, you're bringing awareness coming from the public school now into homeschool. And you're also, I see it. I mean, as much little as time as I have to be on social media, you're also bringing awareness on being real, just being a person, being a mom, and showing the humility that comes along with being a mother and not having it all together all the time, but providing and doing what's best for your family alongside your husband for your children is also inspiring. So, with that, I'll give it back to Matthew.
Okay.
But just know that your story is not done. I'm going to continue to tell you your story is not done, Jessica.
you're right.
All right, so one of the things I always do is I like to do a devil's advocate question. So here I'm going to hit you with a question that's probably in line with like what a lot of people would think that maybe don't like you or don't agree with what you did or don't agree with what you're standing for. So let me push you on this because a lot of people see your case very differently than you do. They don't see this as a stand for principle. They see it as a teacher refusing to show basic human respect to students who are already among the most vulnerable. To them, using a student's preferred pronouns isn't some ideological endorsement. It's the bare minimum of professionalism and decency in a classroom. So when you knowingly refuse to do that, despite understanding the potential emotional and psychological impact, critics would argue that you weren't being neutral. You were actively singling out transgender students and contributing to a hostile environment. From that perspective, your actions aren't just controversial, they're discriminatory and, yes, transphobic. Why should anyone believe that was about protecting rights or integrity rather than a refusal to treat certain students with the same dignity you'd offer everyone else?
That is loaded.
Yeah, it is.
I would start by saying there's nothing professional or decent about lying. And it's that
Mhm.
simple, and we keep trying to complicate it, but it all comes down to lying. It comes down to truth, what is true, and what is false.
Yep.
And all I was asking to do was to continue living in truth and speaking truth, no matter what. And they want this to be the, what is it? Blanking on the word. Um, okay, I'm not going to find the word, but they want this to be like the one thing where you need to be willing to lie about. They try to justify the transgender thing with you know
Accommodate, inclusive, maybe one of those.
yeah, and no, it's still lying, and the thing is so people assume that people with beliefs like mine and the stand that I took have some sort of just like hate and disdain for someone who maybe thinks they are the opposite gender or wants to be the opposite gender or is requesting to be called by that. And I literally have the same love for those students, those individuals. I have detransitioner friends. I have talked to several self-proclaimed transgender people on social media who have reached out to me, and I've built a relationship with them, and we've gone back and forth. And I have love for them like I do for anyone else. And the thing is, they don't even give us a chance to show that love because they immediately, upon learning that we aren't going to lie to them, they immediately, label us as all the things and don't even really give us a chance to show them, hey, I can love you while also telling you
Be
the truth
truthful.
Mhm.
and staying true to myself in my own beliefs. And I don't think we should ever lay down our own beliefs to, affirm and uplift somebody else's fantasy, really is what it is. And I know they probably hate us using that word, but again, we're looking at here is what is true and what is false. And the most loving thing I can do to the people who think that I am the most hateful person is just tell them the truth and say it in love. And I will say there's a lot of people out there who, you know, they do the truth thing and they leave out the love and that's why they look at us as hateful because, you can tell the truth all day long, but if you leave love out of it, it's not going to be effective and um it's not gonna they're not going to ever believe that we really are loving. And so we have to have this really, really fine, perfect balance of both truth and love with what we believe and with this stand that we're taking. And that's something I've even had to, work on myself because you get fired up over this, especially when it involves children. We have righteous anger and we've got to remind ourselves to keep love in the picture because at the end of the day, everything we're doing is out of love, out of our
Yep.
love for these children, out of our love for the truth.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
As you're speaking, I'm reminded of the podcast that Sonia and I did with Layla Jane. And I remember Sonia saying that truth is love. And I can't help but wonder, you think of Layla Jane's story, taking testosterone at 12 years old, and I think Lupron and mastectomy at 13. And I can't help but feel like if somebody had been telling her the truth and speaking to her in love and saying, hey, let's talk about what's going on here. Let's talk about the bullying. Let's talk about the issues, and like, let me not be too quick to call you a boy and affirm this. Like, how much happier would she be that she'd never had to go down that road? And that's literally what she's trying to prevent people from going down. And so, like, I 100% agree with you. Truth is love. It would be wrong to lie to that kid and affirm this gender identity. You could be respectful, but to lie to them and then continue to lead them down this road of destruction, who are you doing a favor to? Who are you helping? You're not helping anybody. You're creating a problem. I don't know. Yeah, so I fundamentally disagree with that idea of, just go along with it because that's the right thing to do. No, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, and going along with it, all it would do in that moment is make them feel good. So we're looking at this present moment in time and feelings when really we need to base our actions looking long term. We need to look long term, not just in the moment we have. And we need to base our actions not on feelings, but fact. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, we're about 4 minutes in. So I'm going to do a little conclusion here, and then I'll give both of you the opportunity to say any last words, any last message
that you'd like to say. All right. So first of all, obviously, I always want to say thank you very much for your time. I know both of you are extremely busy. Sonia's got a campaign she's running. I know she's probably got somewhere to be on a plane probably in 30 minutes from now. And I know you've just had a baby, so I know you guys are very busy. So I very much appreciate your time. But I always like to say it's not thank you so much to me, but to everyone that's going to hear this story, where you're going to help embolden them, equip them, and give them the strength. Because I know there's teachers out there that are in the same situation that you're in, where they're feeling like they're between a rock and a hard place. And by talking about this, you're going to help make things better for them and give them strength and give them hope that, hey, you know what? She stood up for herself, and she's still here. She's still kicking. I need to be like her. And so thank you for that. And so also I want to say thank you for preserving and being an advocate for free speech. I think free speech is the most important thing we have. And if you lose free speech, you lose it all. And if people are getting, just like you said, you got a fire captain reaching out to you because he's afraid to speak up. Like, oh my gosh, where have we gotten in this world? This is ridiculous. I cannot believe it. How much free speech we've just like cowered ourselves. And it's like, if we would just start using our speech and standing up, and then you wouldn't be like, you're the Jessica Tapia of the world. It's like, well, no, there should be more Jessica Tapias of the world standing up. You shouldn't be standing alone. And you're going to see more and more come along, obviously, the Maribelli, Lorianne West. And so I thank you for that. All right. So Sonia knows, like, I have 3 boys, Caden, Harlan, and Elliot. And I think about, like, being a dad and what the most meaningful things to me are. And honestly, the most meaningful things to me is when somebody compliments my kids and says, man, your boy, Caden, your Harlan, Elliot, oh man, they were so helpful. They were so respectful. They so this, so that. To me, that's like a huge measure of success. And for me, I think of I could really care less how much my kids make in life or, what their degrees are, if they get a degree or not. But it's more so like, are they looked at as like, that they have the right character. They have the right mindset. They encourage other people. To me, that would be like measure of success as a dad to my 3 boys. And I think as I think about that, I was reminded of something that Sonia said. So like to me in life, if someone was to ever say, you know what in life, be a Caden Ward. Be an Elliot Ward, be a Harlan Ward. That to me would be like the ultimate of like, oh man, that feels so good as a dad. And I'm reminded of something Sonia said. So she said this on the podcast when we were talking to the 3 students from Harupa Valley, Addison, or Alyssa, Madison, and Hadil.
And she said, and I just want to quickly point out the butt tapping celebration and the picture of his hands on your guys' butts. It breaks my heart that those things are normalized because that's not normal. And I do want to point out that even if we play along with their fairy tale of saying that boys can be girls, boys on boys and girls on girls still have sexual harassment that needs to be addressed by school district. So I am really frustrated that the school district is just pushing it to the side, but I'm glad that you guys have advocates because there's nothing that angers me more than to see that they're pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. I still think regardless, the death threats and everything, that's not a joke. Like, how did we get to a point in society where adults won't stand up for children being harmed
and hurt and threatened, and everyone is afraid to lose their job? Why would you want a job when you see kids being hurt right in front of your eyes? At some point, you have to be a Jessica Tapia.
You have to be someone who is willing to give it all. And
Aw.
yeah, so I thought
Yeah,
that was
here's where Matthew and I start crying every
Me
podcast.
too.
To me, that really stood out because you know what? Like, what better compliment to you? And obviously, I didn't know how you were raised or your parents or your grandma's story or anything like that. But it's had to feel like someone who raised you, someone who had a hand in bringing you up, would obviously be proud to hear that someone would say, be a Jessica Tapia in life. Like, what better compliment? And then along the same lines, I had a conversation, I think it was just last week, with Greg Abduch and his wife Kelly at Sonia's event, her like patio party thing for down in San Diego. And I was sitting there at the table having a conversation with Greg, and I was having a conversation with Kelly, and we probably talked for like 30 minutes. And in the course of the 30 minutes, there were only 3 names that came up. Well, number 1 was Sonia's name because we were there for her party. Number 2 was Tony Thurman's name, but it was not brought up in a very positive light. And then the only other name that came up was the name Jessica Tapia. And it was brought up in a very positive light. And I said, oh, wow, that's very interesting. You just brought up Jessica Tapia. I'm like, I literally just messaged her on Instant Messenger like an hour ago, asking her if I could get her to come on the podcast.
and so I thought, wow,
Oh.
what a coincidence. And so
What's
they
beautiful,
obviously
Matthew, is you always bring in the right people, but I'm so busy, he doesn't even ask. And I was like, oh, I could have messaged Jessica. She's my sister.
yeah, it would have been nice.
It
No,
was
I'm
so cool. No, I love it because look how the doors opened for this conversation. It was all
right.
just, by you having it led on your heart. That's the most perfect scenario that we could have asked for. So thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll just do it. Just message her. The worst thing someone can do is say no, I figured.
Yeah.
So I wanted to end on that because I thought like what better way to end is to say, like your name being mentioned in such a positive way that you're encouraging other people, that people are bringing up the name Jessica Tapia just in a conversation in a very positive light. And so with that being said, I want to turn it over to Sonia. Any last words, any last advice, and how could people get a hold of you or reach out to you? And then the same to Jessica.
I mean, for me, just keep linking arms. Look at this is a full circle conversation right here. I am grateful every single day. I mean, even when days seem like, I mean, you, Matthew, you've seen it where I'm tired, exhausted, feel beat up because we're, fighting the same fight and at the same events a lot of times, or you're helping picking me up at the airport and taking me to the next group so we can get more warriors involved. Or Jessica, her and I are like, hey, sis, can you pray? Or we're excited about a big, thing that maybe we got a small win in this bigger fight. And look how God's bringing us together for a time such as this. And even when it feels like heavy and the enemy is attacking greatly, I have literally been in the middle of nowhere in California, where I call nowhere because my phone says SOS. And I've said this in rooms where I'm like, see that, God, it's SOS, come rescue me. And he is rescuing me, but not in the sense where I'm calling out to like pull me and yank me out. It's like, this is exactly where you asked to be. This is exactly where I have you. And in those moments, it makes me so grateful. Like, God doesn't need us to fight this fight. We're given the opportunity, and I would be devastated if he yanked me out and said, you know what, you're not doing this right. I don't need you, child. Like, I want to be able to serve in that way. I want to be able to say at the end of the day, when I see, God, I want him to say, good job, well done, faithful servant. Because I can't even imagine life any other way than just to hear those things. And we're not promised a great life here. But great is also defined on how we take it. Is great because we're serving the Lord, or great because we have, shiny, fancy objects, or is great because we have a beautiful, blessed family, or is great because, we get the positions or the awards or whatever in life or the money. that drives. To me, great is being able to serve. Great is being able to stand in front of, these children and the enemy's agenda that's seeking to harm them. I find that great. I find that beautiful. I find that a gift. And honestly, I have changed my attitude to where sometimes it was scary when you get your death threat or whatever, they're threatening your family. And I just honestly have given it with my husband and my children. We've given it to God. It's not to say we're stupid and we don't protect ourselves, but to be able to even have this opportunity to be in these positions. I mean, look at the headlines. A teacher, now mom, beautiful, being a homeschool mom, took a stance and it went across the nation. Another mom just saying, no, we're not doing this. You're not taking my rights as a parent. And now they're trying to bash me for not going to college or whatever. And the same people that I'm running against or whatever, to try to I'm trying to protect the kids. They're trying to bash me and saying, who are you in education? And I'm like, who are you? Look at our kids. Look at the results of what's happening. And look at the district that, we've been fortunate to be able to have a voice in our own district, and look at the results and look at the lawsuits. Look at what the state's suing us on. So I'm always grateful because I'm like, look at, if God can show, and look at you, Matthew, we met because of, you watching a podcast, and look what you're doing now. You found it in your heart to have these podcasts that it doesn't even matter if you get 1 view or 50 views or 5 million views. The point is, one of those views is going to be somebody who hears a story that you're able to bring to light. And they say, you know what? I could do that too. If Sonja, Jessica, Matthew can do this, why can't I? I love to be able to be that example of an imperfect person who at the world looks at as, oh, she's just a dumb soccer mom. Okay, maybe that's my super gift power that God gives me. Let it be. Let people see that he can use an imperfect person to do amazing things, because at the end of the day, it's not us, it's him. And we know where we're going. So, I mean, I kind of went off on a tangent, but all to say is keep giving God your yes. Let him use you. I mean, look at my children. I have to just end it with this. Brooke, by the blessing of God, was able to go with me for the first time on the campaign trail. And we were in San Diego, and she got to hear Jennifer Say's story firsthand. And that was the first time I've heard the whole story. Obviously, we love what she's doing with, making sure girls have a right and opportunity. She's a big, loud voice. I've seen her on Fox. We've been on the same things with Trace, but I've never got to sit there and actually hear her and talk to her. And my daughter walked away saying, Mom, that was amazing. Not only listening to, she was excited to listen to me and spend the time with me, but to listen to another story that inspired her so much that she was like, I need a sweatshirt type thing, like it was so cool because my kids live this. But to see these people's stories just be able to inspire others to be just a little bit, louder in their fight is just a blessing. Just keep linking arms and keep giving your gifts. I mean, we all have gifts. It could be a fighter or it could be someone behind the scenes. Keep giving the gift and look at what God's doing. I think it's beautiful. I mean, I would have never imagined my life to be what it is today. And I would never ask God to take it away. I keep asking him, give me more. Please provide these opportunities to fight the good fight. So I love you guys. I'm grateful for you. And let's keep doing it, because I am extremely excited when I can tell you we have people, it gives me the good chills all across California in these moments that I'm away from my family say, I want to run for school board. Are you kidding me? We've been praying for this. Right. In 2026, we have an opportunity to switch more seats. That is historical in California. And that's only because we're all saying yes, right? So let's keep doing it. Let's keep linking arms. I love you guys. Let's keep fighting the good fight. You guys are my brothers and sisters, and I will stand in front of any of you if they try to come after you. So just pick up the phone and I will make sure I Zoom on the next flight out or the next drive out. And I have your back always.
Thank you.
So proud of you.
All right, Jessica, any last words, any thoughts and advice, and how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, as Sonja was sharing, I was just thinking about how we are not in control of the outcome. We don't know what's going to happen, how Sonja's campaign is going to end. I didn't know the outcome of what I went through when I took a stand, if I was in fact going to be fired, or if they were going to accommodate me, or what was going to come of it. We are not in control of the outcome. And when we can just finally accept that we are in no control of how it ends, how it plays out, but what we are in control of is being obedient. And like Sonja said, giving our yes, it truly is the most life changing thing. Obedience is what we're called to do. And when we do it, he will show up and he will provide what we need to continue being obedient. And he will use us in such radical ways. Just like Sonja again said, I could not ever imagine my life looking like this. I can say the same exact thing. I could not ever have imagined my life looking like what it does today. And I truly believe it looks like this because I chose obedience. I chose to take my hands off the wheel. I used to be the biggest control freak and perfectionist, and I had to repent of that and lay that at his feet because it's one, a miserable way to live, and two, it's just totally unrealistic. I don't have control, but what I do have is the ability to obey and trust him. And when I started doing that, wow, like I said, I really found my life and he gave me the desires of my heart. And yes, it's come with a cost, it's come with some pain. But he says the pain you're feeling is nothing compared to the joy that is coming. And so, in those painful moments that we experience because of the bold stands we take, we don't lose hope. We know again that God's gonna work every bit of it for good. And so my encouragement is just forget about the outcome, just obey. Wake up every day and obey. Um, and I would just encourage everyone, look, I had no idea that law firms like Advocates for Faith and Freedom even existed until I was fired. Again, specifically in my story, I was fired for being a Christian. And that felt so wrong. It felt so off. And I knew like there's got to be someone out there who can help me right now because I don't know a lot about the Constitution and my rights, but I sure know that my rights were just violated. And so that's when I went on this hunt and I found there are these wonderful law firms out there that are willing and ready and waiting, and they do it for free to stand with people like all of us who are willing to stand and pay the price of living out our freedoms. What good was it that all these men and women have died for our freedoms if we're not exercising them? I told my kids yesterday as my oldest brought up the question of what do you mean the hill you'll die on, And that's something else we shared with her is the best thing we can do for those men and women who have sacrificed for us is now use the freedoms that they fought to give us, that they fought to secure for us. And that's, again, what mommy did as a teacher. I simply just used my freedoms that they fought for me. And those have been some of my most favorite supporters over the past few years is the veterans who have found my story because it's like it hits them in a whole different way than the average person because they were actually on the line, right? Like their life was on the line, fighting for the freedom that they now saw me use. And they're like, thank you.
Yeah.
And that has been some of the most moving messages and relationships that God has blessed me with on the other side of this stand. So again, I want people to know, like, don't be afraid you're not in this alone. Yes, most likely if you stand up boldly for your rights, especially if they're conservative in this day and age, like there's going to be a cost and people are going to come after you. But that's when you need to pick up the phone and you need to reach out to these law firms like Advocates for Faith and Freedom that I now work for who fight for your constitutional rights. And they're going to stand behind you and with you all the way to the bitter end. And look, we're the one with 2 cases right now fighting to save girls' sports here in California. That's a big deal. If you're a mom or a dad listening or someone very passionate about seeing a girl's sport saved, like we need your prayer over these cases. We need your financial support in these cases. We're going to court trying to overturn this corrupt law that even allows this in the first place. But just again, know that we exist. There are people ready to defend you and stand with you. If you're willing to simply use your freedoms, exercise your rights.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you in person. I know we'll meet each other soon. All
Yeah,
right.
look forward to it. Thank you, Matthew.
All right. Talk to you guys
Thank
very
you.
soon. Thank you. Bye, Sonia. Bye, Jessica. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.